Hi, hello. Today I want to talk about layer separation on VTuber models. I won't go into the basics here, I will just be giving a few tips to expand upon the basic knowledge. So for context, I am a VTuber model artist, but I am primarily a Live 2D rigger, which means I typically deal with the animation more than the arts. That being said, being a Live 2D rigger means I know exactly how I need the layers to be separated in order to rig models. Of course, every Live 2D rigger has their own flow and preferences, but these tips will mostly be very general, and I hope they are useful to artists who are thinking of making their own Live 2D model. So, with that out of the way, tip number 1. No two models are the same. What I mean by that is that you shouldn't watch a video of how someone else separates the layers for their model and just blindly copy the exact same layer structure. Does your model have accessories that the example model doesn't? Think about how you need to separate those. Is the outfit wildly different? You'll have to cut the clothes differently. Most models are unique and require unique layer separation to fit them. Tip number 2. Watch Live 2D rigging videos. You might think this wouldn't be helpful for you if you only do art, but understanding how the rigging process works and why it works will help you separate the layers more intuitively. Once you understand how a model is rigged to move, you will be able to think about how your own model is supposed to move and cut the layers while thinking about how the rigger would work with your model. Tip number 3, and this one actually ties into number 1 and 2. Keep your brain active when separating layers. You have to really think about what you're doing at every step. Every layer has a purpose. Think about what needs to happen with every part of the model. Visualize the model moving in your head and focus on every detail. Consider that the model is 2D and will need certain parts separated or hidden behind other layers until it moves to give a 3D effect. I have seen models where the eyes weren't even separated between left and right, and it has caused me intense agony to imagine what their thought process must have been. Tip number 4. For the love of God, name your layers. I have seen too many models that were sent to me for rigging with over 100 unnamed layers. This causes your Live 2D rigger great anxiety and a lot more work than would otherwise be required. Even if you intend to rig your own model, make it a habit to name your layers. And keep in mind that Live 2D cannot read layers with spaces in them, so make sure to use an underscore or capitals instead. Tip number 5. Leave notes for your Live 2D rigger. This is mostly for if you don't intend to rig your own model, but notes can be super helpful. If you separated certain parts for specific movement, make a note of it so your rigger will know what you have in mind. Something needs to be clipped or reverse clipped, make a note of it. Especially when it comes to expression toggles, it is often not clear which layer goes to which expression. Communication is key. Tip number 6. Use screen and multiply layers. Live 2D can read both screen and multiply layers, so don't be afraid to use them for highlighting and shading. Be aware though that those are the only effect layers Live 2D can read. We don't want shine, overlay, darken, or any of the other ones. Tip number 7. More isn't always better, but never do less than required. Often we see artists split their models into an insane amount of layers, and I have personally seen a model with over 2000. This is not a requirement. It is true that more complicated models with a lot of accessories should logically have a lot of layers, but I have seen basic models with a lot more separated layers than necessary. It is not really a bad thing, as Live 2D riggers can always group those layers up in a single deformer to keep them together. It's just more work for the artists than was actually required. Make sure you value your time by knowing what needs to be separated and what doesn't. For a full body model, I usually work with 200 to 400 layers, but if the model is really simple, you can reduce that by a lot. Just make sure it's separated where it actually matters. Tip number 8. Ask a Live 2D rigger. If you're stuck or unsure how to separate something, don't be afraid to ask an experienced Live 2D rigger how they would do it. I think most people would be more than willing to offer quick advice. If you have a specific rigger working on your model, make sure you ask them specifically. As I said in the beginning, every Live 2D rigger has their own workflow, and they will appreciate it if you cater to their habits specifically. If you don't have a specific Live 2D rigger you work with, you can always ask questions in the Live 2D Discord server. There's tons of experienced Live 2D model artists and riggers who can answer your questions quickly and accurately. And that was it for this video. If you have any tips to add yourself, please do leave them in the comments. And of course, any and all feedback is always appreciated. I do hope this video could maybe help someone out there who is starting their model making journey. But yeah, that was it. Bye guys!